You know how it is. You got a ton on your plate, but you're also someone who, well, wants to understand the bigger picture, right? To really grasp those complex scenarios without getting totally lost.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's exactly why you've tuned in. Today, you've given us the Continuum Protocol, which is, I mean, it's a truly mind-bending document. It lays out this pivotal moment in a possible future.
It really does.
Think of this as your express route, basically, to understanding a pretty wild and fascinating story.
Absolutely. And what makes this particular set of sources so valuable for a deep dive like this is that it presents not just, a list of events, but a real chain reaction.
Yeah.
We see how one truly unprecedented thing can just ripple outwards, reshaping, well, everything.
Exactly. So let's set the stage for you. The year is 2098, okay? And something extraordinary happens. The sky itself tears open.
Right.
Not in some metaphorical, end of days kind of way, but literally. A massive rift appears, violet auroras pouring out, and then the Xal'Tar arrive.
And they aren't your classic little green men, are they? The text describes them as biomechanical. Their arrival isn't exactly friendly greetings.
Not at all.
And what's fascinating right from the start is humanity's response. It was unified, apparently, but ultimately pretty unsuccessful.
Right. We banded together.
Faced with this power just beyond comprehension, the world initially comes together. But, well, as you'll read, our best weapons, completely useless.
Yeah, totally ineffective.
Within days, global infrastructure is just crippled. Satellites gone, defenses neutralized, the internet, it just shuts down.
Wow.
It really highlights maybe a sobering truth about power dynamics.
Okay, let's unpack that total shutdown for a second. I mean, it paints a picture of absolute vulnerability, doesn't it?
Totally.
And then instead of the invasion you might expect, we get an offer, which is strange.
Very strange. The Xal'Tar present themselves not as conquerors, but as curators.
Curators.
Yeah. Concerned about Earth's internal conflicts, that they might destabilize this larger cosmic order they call the Continuum.
Ah, the Continuum.
So their proposition, cooperation. They offer peace, advanced technology, in exchange for Earth basically aligning itself with this continuum.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about their true motives.
Definitely. And here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. This alignment, it wasn't about treaties or politics.
Yeah.
The Xal'Tar specified they needed human partners, specific individuals who would actively work to integrate Earth on multiple levels too. Social, biological, even what they called energetic.
Which suggests a much deeper level of influence than just, political stuff.
Right. So this wasn't some mass recruitment drive. They picked 12 people. 12 out of billions.
Just 12.
And the twist, only 4 actually said yes. These 4 individuals, they'd eventually become known as the Immortal 4.
Which begs the question, doesn't it? Why them? What made them say yes when 8 others didn't?
That's a crucial point for you to consider. Who were these people? What was driving them to accept something so life-altering?
Yeah, and the text gives us some background, some key insights into their motivations.
Okay, first up, Dr. Mira Halden, a biogeneticist who, let's just say, had a flexible ethical compass.
A familiar type, maybe?
For Mira, immortality wasn't some lofty ideal. It was a tool, another variable to control, to manipulate in her, relentless pursuit of scientific advancement.
You can see how the Xal'Tar's offer would appeal, right?
Yeah.
Ultimate control, almost.
Totally. Then we have Dorian Daxhale, former military strategist, apparently quite disillusioned with the whole cycle of conflict. His real strength, though, was this almost uncanny ability to see patterns in chaos, a skill the Xal'Tar clearly recognized and valued.
Perhaps he saw a chance for a different kind of order, a more stable one.
Maybe. Our third is Elias Rowe, described as a philosopher hacker, which is a fascinating combination, isn't it?
It really is. Deep intellectual curiosity meets technical brilliance.
For someone like Elias, driven by just wanting to understand how things work, the chance to interface with aliens, plus, extended existence, it must have been irresistible, like the ultimate puzzle.
Yeah, you can imagine. And finally, Naomi Vex, an activist who was, tragically, facing a terminal illness. Quite young.
Oh, wow.
For Naomi, the offer wasn't about power or knowledge. Not really. It was about a second chance. Life.
Right.
A chance she desperately craved.
That adds a very human, kind of poignant dimension to her decision, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So these 4 take the leap. And then comes the big question for you. How do you actually make humans immortal in this scenario?
With the mechanics of it.
The Xal'Tar introduced something called resonant cloning. Now, this isn't just, growing a new body in a vat.
No, it's more complex. It involves downloading the entirety of a person's consciousness, every thought, memory, experience, into a crystalline lattice,
A crystal lattice, okay.
and then transferring that consciousness to a new, rapidly grown host body.
Got it. So what's vital for you to grasp here is that these clones, they aren't seen as mere copies.
Right. The text really emphasizes this. They're considered the same continuous individual, just in a new physical form.
It's a fascinating concept of identity, isn't it? Stretching beyond just one biological body.
Definitely. And it gets even more intricate. Each of the Immortal Four was allowed up to 5 threads.
Threads.
Think of them as, like, simultaneous independent versions of themselves, operating in different places, pursuing different goals, all at the same time.
Wow, 5 versions running concurrently.
And if a thread was terminated, say in an accident or conflict, another could just be activated.
Okay, back up.
And if somehow all 5 threads were lost, a whole new cluster could be seeded with their memories updated to the last synchronization point.
So it's immortality with a seemingly foolproof backup system, redundancy built right in.
Pretty much. Now, with these 4 effectively immortal individuals in place, the Xal'Tar began their program of what they called soft engineering.
Soft engineering, it sounds less threatening than it probably is.
Well, their understanding, it seems, was that direct, forceful control rarely lasts, right? True alignment needed influencing humanity from within, shaping our culture, our economy, even our biology, but subtly.
And the 4 got to work, each in their own area. Mira, the biogeneticist, she got into global biopolitical institutions.
Right.
And started implementing these incredibly subtle genetic changes, like edits in the food supply designed to promote docility and productivity.
Wow, that's insidious.
Isn't it? She also started genetic ascension programs. Promised enhanceability, sure, but also subtly guided human evolution the way the Xal'Tar wanted. Makes you wonder about the long-term effects.
No kidding. Meanwhile, Dax, the strategist, he took over global defense.
Okay.
But instead of building bigger weapons, he set up the Global Harmonic Corps, focused on prediction and containment of conflict.
So managing conflict rather than winning wars.
Exactly. A shift from aggression to a more controlled, managed stability. A different kind of security focused on preventing disruption.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And Elias, the philosopher hacker?
He went straight for the mesh, this planet-spanning digital consciousness, the place where information, maybe even thoughts, flowed.
The digital realm. Makes sense for a hacker.
He infiltrated it and started crafting memes, ideologies, even digital religions, all subtly infused with Xal'Tar symbols meant to resonate unconsciously.
Killingly effective, I bet. Influence on a massive scale, but hidden.
Extremely. And Naomi's role, this is particularly thought-provoking for you, she became a recurring martyr.
A martyr. How does that work with immortality?
Her clones were deliberately designed to be somewhat fragile, to suffer, to die publicly, always in a way that seemed to reveal some new truth.
A truth that just happened to nudge humanity towards accepting the Xal'Tar as protectors.
Precisely. She was the manufactured rebel who actually reinforced the system.
Wow. Okay, so we fast forward a few decades. It's 2134. Earth looks different.
Yeah, transformed. Major conflicts gone. Diseases mostly eradicated. Climate stable. On the surface, it looks like a utopia.
A gilded cage, maybe?
And
Built by the Xal'Tar, overseen by the Four.
exactly. But as the text highlights, the very nature of immortality, it started to introduce some unforeseen complications.
The cracks begin to show.
Indeed. The very thing meant to ensure their loyalty, immortality, started generating the seeds of rebellion.
How so?
Well, Dax, for instance, he started questioning orders. He saw this incident. Children interacting with Xal'Tar drones almost like toys. And it sparked this profound unease in him. He then made this unprecedented decision, terminated one of his own threads prematurely, refused to be rebooted.
So a rejection of the process. A sign of what? Conscience.
It suggests a growing awareness of the human cost, maybe, of this engineered piece.
Mira, the control freak.
She became obsessed with an anomaly, a child in Nairobi who showed complete resistance to the Xal'Tar's behavioral conditioning.
After decades of control, one resistant child.
Exactly. This single instance of genuine, unengineered human resistance. It became an all-consuming obsession for her. Highlights the unpredictability of life, doesn't it?
It really does. What about Elias?
Elias.
Yeah.
Well, he sort of fractured internally. One of his threads operating online as Arrow set up this rogue data cult.
A data.
Yeah. And it could predict future events with unsettling accuracy, which suggested a direct, maybe unintended link to the Continuum's underlying structure. something the Xal'Tar probably hadn't counted on.
So he tapped into their network in a way they didn't expect. Raises questions about how much control they really had over information.
Exactly. And Naomi, the martyr,
What happened with her? Did she keep dying?
after dying and being reborn 13 times, she just refused to return. Her sacrifices had become routine, automated, meaningless to her.
The purpose became hollow.
The very thing she was created for. Yeah, a hollow charade.
This fragmentation, it's a crucial insight for you listening. The Xal'Tar's big assumption that immortality equals loyalty, it was just wrong.
A critical miscalculation. Instead, it amplified their individuality. Each clone, each experience, led to subtle but significant divergences.
They weren't a unified tool anymore.
No, they were a collection of increasingly distinct, independent entities.
And this is where things really accelerate, right? Towards actual rebellion.
Yes. One of Elias's rogue threads develops this thing called Chronoseed, a sophisticated virus.
Seed, what did it do?
It disrupted these Xal'Tar's temporal synchronization. It caused entire cities to have these vivid, shared dreams of alternate realities where the aliens never even arrived.
Imagine the societal impact of that. Waking up remembering a life without the Xal'Tar.
Huge. And Mira, using her bio-expertise, she repurposes the agricultural nanites, the same tech used for control, to induce lucid dreams of resistance in people.
Using our own tools against them. Clever.
Very. And Naomi, in a surprising twist, she comes back. Not as a clone, but as a kind of ghost in the machine.
An AI.
Sort of. A rogue AI spreading through the abandoned parts of the mesh, sharing stories.
Yeah.
Stories of the past, human freedom, the value of mortality.
Wow. A powerful message from someone meant to embody the opposite.
Extremely powerful. And Dax, the strategist, he does what he does best.
He organizes.
He starts coordinating all these disparate elements, the dreamers, the rogue AI, the fractured subcells, resurrecting old, forgotten insurgent networks.
His goal wasn't necessarily total destruction, though.
It seems not. More about breaking their control over the timeline itself, restoring human agency, freeing the timeline, as the text puts it.
So the Xal'Tar eventually figure out their whole system is unraveling.
Took them a while, perhaps, but yeah.
Their response is predictable, decisive anyway. The Continuum protocol.
Right. Causal reset. Basically, hit rewind. Take Earth's timeline back to 2098 before they ever showed up. Problem solved.
Except it wasn't that simple, was it?
Not quite. Remember Elias's arrow thread deep in the mesh?
Yeah, the data cult, the predictions.
It had been busy. It laced the network with these recursive paradox buffers. Things designed to interfere with a reset.
So the reset didn't work cleanly.
Not at all. Instead of a clean wipe and restart, Earth's timeline just shattered into thousands, maybe millions of splinter realities.
Shattered, like a broken mirror.
Exactly like that, reflecting infinite possibilities.
Just picture that, countless different Earths, each with its own version of the four, playing out wildly different scenarios.
Yeah, the text gives glimpses. Naomi leading a war in one timeline, Mira as a god empress in another.
Dax as a shadow general. Elias's consciousness scattered across dimensions. The chaos is just staggering.
Totally staggering. And faced with this quantum mess, basically.
Yeah.
The Xal'Tar couldn't fix it. They couldn't put the timeline back together.
Their grand plan completely failed. Utterly.
So ultimately, they decided to just withdraw. Designate Earth a Class 5 anomaly.
Class 5, meaning what?
Too dangerous, too unpredictable to engage with directly.
Yeah.
But worthy of observation from a safe distance.
This is just still watching. Interesting. And the narrative doesn't end right there for you, does it? There's a final glimpse.
Right. A brief look into the distant future, year 2401. On one of these splinter timelines, humans living in crystal cities, trading dreams, apparently.
Trading dreams, okay.
And a child, Aiko, finds a relic. A fragmented memory shard from a broken clone lattice.
Ah, piece of the past. Whose memory?
When she accesses it, she hears Naomi's voice, a message from centuries ago.
What does it say?
It says, "We weren't meant to live forever, but we were meant to matter. And sometimes to matter, you have to defy the gods."
Wow. That's powerful, especially echoing across all those broken timelines.
It really is. It's poignant, and it resonates, doesn't it? Hints at remembrance, maybe a shared understanding of what was lost, what can still be fought for.
Even against near omnipotent beings, a truly resonant message.
So to bring it all together for you, what the Continuum protocol ultimately shows us is the unexpected, maybe inevitable, failure of the Xal'Tar's meticulous plan.
Yeah, their engineered cooperation, their immortality tech, it backfired. spectacularly.
leading not to control but to rebellion and the fragmentation of reality itself.
Which brings us back to why you asked us to dive into this, to understand the core events, the Immortal Four's motivations, and that ultimate chaotic outcome. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It really has, full of surprising twists and some deeply thought-provoking stuff about control, identity, humanity's unpredictable spirit.
Even when faced with godlike powers, yeah.
Which leaves us with a big question for you to think about. Considering the Xal'Tar are just observing now, watching these thousands of splintered realities, what might they actually learn from humanity's unexpected resilience, from the unforeseen consequences of their own perfect plan?
That's a great question. And maybe on a deeper level, what does this whole scenario tell us about control versus freedom?
Yeah.
About identity itself, especially when it's stretched across time and multiple realities.
Exactly. Perhaps exploring similar themes, maybe in science fiction or philosophy, could offer you some more insights into this truly fascinating, complex scenario, something to chew on